Hi, I'm Justine, and in this presentation, we are going to be talking about animal behavior. So, we're going to first talk about the different kinds of animal behaviors. One is instinct, a behavior that is not learned, it is inherited. So, an animal never learns this, it just comes to them naturally. There's also fixed action patterns, which are innate behaviors that follow a regular, unvarying pattern. An example of this is male stickback fish defend their territory against other males. There's imprinting, which is an innate program for acquiring a specific behavior during what is called the critical period. So early in the animal's life, they go through a critical period where they learn things. For example, these geese during this critical period learn who their mother is. There is also associative learning, and this occurs when an animal recognizes two or more events connected. For example, classical conditioning, trial and error learning occurs when an animal connects its own behavior with a particular environmental response. An example of this is operant conditioning. There is spatial learning, and this is when an animal associates attributes of a location with the reward it gains by being able to identify and return to that location. There's habituation, and it's a learned behavior that allows the animal to disregard a meaningless stimuli. There's observational behavior, and occurs when an animal copies the behavior of another animal. So, a monkey sees another monkey and they do what they do. There's insight, and this occurs when an animal performs their behavior with a desirable outcome. These are some general animal behaviors. There are some survival responses, fight or flight responses, and an animal chooses whether it's going to take on a challenge or not. There's avoidance response and alarm response. There's also parental care, which is an innate behavior when animals have offspring. So a mother cares for their young, and they don't learn how to care for them. It just comes to them naturally. There's also foraging behaviors. Now we're going to talk about animal movement, and a good example of this is migration. And migration is the long distance seasonal movement of animals. So these birds are flying from here to there because of migration. Now we're going to talk about animal rhythms, an example of this is a circadian rhythm, which is a pattern of behavioral activity that is aligned with the 24-hour cycle in the day. And there's also hibernation, which is a seasonal behavior. It's a behavior by an extended period of sleep. So these bears sleep during the winter. There's communication in animals, and there's chemical, visual, and auditory communications, and also tactile, which is touching. And mothers do this to care for their young. And now we're going to talk about foraging and social behavior. Foraging, an example of foraging behavior is herds, flocks, and schools provide several advantages. So if you're in a school or a flock or a herd, you can defend yourself because there's more of you. So you can defend yourself against other animals. An example of social behavior is altruistic behavior, which is an unselfish behavior that appears to reduce the fitness of the individual. So an animal reduces its fitness for other animals. And this is my presentation on animal behavior.